Flashforge has finally released its brand new multi-tool head 3D printer, capable of printing multicolor and multi-material with almost no filament waste. This is all of the waste that was produced from every single print that was printed on the Creator 5. And the best part is, all of this is support material and Purge towers. Hello ladies and gentlemen, I'm Dan, and welcome to my kitchen. Today, I'm going to be taking a look at the Flashforge Creator 5 3D printer. I've been using this bad boy every single day since it showed up, and it has been an absolute blast to work with. However, I do want to quickly state that this video is not sponsored by Flashforge. They simply sent me this 3D printer and asked me to make a video on it. All thoughts and opinions throughout this entire video are my own. So without further ado, let's get into it. To get started, the one thing that immediately stood out to me about the Creator 5 was just how insanely quick the entire setup process was. And I'm not joking, the setup process is insanely quick. You start with removing the foam, laying out the parts, attaching the display with 2 screws, clicking in the 4 nozzle blockers, you slot in the tool head module, bolt that down with 2 screws, mount the magnetic extruders to the dock, connect the communication cable with 2 screws, unlock the bed by removing 3 screws, and then you install the 4 spool holders on the side. After moving it into the print room and turning it on for the first time, I followed the quick setup guide on the display. I linked it to my Flashforge account through the app using the QR code and then let the printer run through its calibration and self-check process. I'm going to quickly run through some of the main features that Flashforge advertises on the Creator 5. This printer not only prints multicolor, but also multi-material. Flashforge claims this printer's multicolor printing speeds are up to 500% faster with near zero purge waste for far more efficient printing. This printer also retails for $699. During a print, the tool head swapping also takes about 6 to 7 seconds and is incredibly fast. Now, obviously, marketing claims are one thing and actually testing it are another. For my very first test, I went with the classic benchmark, a multicolor benchy. This took around 40 minutes as well, basically the same time on other printers, but with 4 colors. Unlike AMS style systems, there's basically no giant purge pile constantly being generated. The printer purges the filament being used on each tool head before each print. Outside of this and the purge tower, that's pretty much all the waste you're gonna have. The benchy itself came out really nice. I did notice 2 slightly darker layer rings on the pink and blue sections. I do want to note that this only appeared on this single print and never showed up afterwards. The layers were very consistent, the colors looked clean, and there wasn't any actual print failures. For a first print, I'm extremely happy with this. Next, I printed another benchy, but this one used separate colored sections instead of layered color swaps. Using the same filament colors as before, this print took just over 3 hours and the results looked incredible. There was no visible color bleeding issues, no weird transitional artifacts, and every color separation looked super clean. But the fact that it accomplished this with almost no waste made it even more impressive. This is an extremely solid result, and I'm very happy with it. After the benchies, I wanted to print something a little bit larger. And by larger, I mean the legendary bird Lugia. This print took roughly 14.5 hours total and used 320 grams of filament, with 78 grams being used for the purge tower and 94 grams being used for support. Once I removed it from the bed and cleaned off the supports, it looked really cool. I did notice a few tiny areas where the support material slightly transferred onto the model, but outside of that, the overall print quality was excellent. The layers were smooth and consistent, the color transitions were super clean, and there was no bleeding between the white and blue sections. I absolutely love how this came out, and it's a great little desk model. But obviously, I couldn't just print Lugia without printing my favorite legendary bird, Ho-Oh. The part I was most worried about was the tail, since it had a ton of super thin sections only connected at a tiny base. The body used 4 different colors and came out fantastic. I also printed the feet separately in under 30 minutes. All the support material was easily popped off, however I did notice some of the red support stuck to the wings. Once it was fully assembled, this thing looked amazing. It's an absolutely gorgeous 3D print. I also wanted to test how the printer would handle multiple objects on the bed at once, so I printed a bunch of these flexible little possums. I did use a brim for this simply because the printer isn't enclosed and I wasn't sure how the small contact points would behave. Every possum printed just fine. They all flexed properly, the extrusion stayed extremely consistent, and all of the color swapping layers looked super clean. There was literally no issues with any of these and they came out great. At this point, I just started printing random things because it was fun and the results were looking great. So I printed this fat Spider-Man. There were a few small support marks where the material slightly stuck to the surface, but overall I was really happy with it. This was actually a really great stress test too, since multiple colors were being printed on the same layer while also dealing with overhangs on supports. And overall, the printer handled this print really well. Next, I wanted to see how the printer would handle a large multicolor, multi-piece 3D print. So I printed this eagle. The body and both wings were printed separately, with the body taking around 14 hours and each wing taking roughly 13 hours. These all came out great. I did notice some extremely light wispy stringing with the brown PLA, but it was so minor that I could literally remove it with my fingers. And once everything snapped together, the final result looked incredible. This is probably my favorite print from the entire testing of this printer. Lastly, I wanted to test multi-material 3D printing. I found this really cool rugged box and printed the latches in PETG. The body is PLA and the seal is TPU95A. Unfortunately, the bottom did warp up. However, I did turn on my big exhaust fan in the print room since I was using PETG, so that could have contributed to this. It's a very tight seal with the TPU lip ring, and the PETG latches snap onto the case extremely tight. I also swapped out the green PLA for a blue PLA and printed it again. It had slightly less warping, so I think the temperature difference in the room contributed to this since it's not an enclosed 3D printer. However, even though there are some issues with it cosmetically, it still physically acts like a case and seals really nice. I also wanted to test out a TPU and PLA compliant mechanism hybrid print. These took about 3 hours to print. The PLA is used for the pliers and the TPU makes the center flexible. There was some stringing from the TPU, but I was also running this printer extremely fast. I was able to clean it up really quickly and it didn't interfere with the motion of the pliers at all. They function as they should and came out looking really great. So in conclusion, the Flashforge Creator 5 has honestly blown me away. The multicolor and multi-material 3D printing on this printer has been extremely efficient and impressive. The setup took me literally no time at all, and the print quality on all of these looks pretty great. Other than some support material sticking to the model itself, I'm pretty happy with it. The fact that it produces little to no waste on any of the 3D printed parts is one of its biggest strengths. Not having to throw away huge piles of wasted filament is so nice. And you're getting all of this for $699, which is insane for a 4-toolhead 3D printer. While I haven't used this printer for too incredibly long, it's been a great experience and I'm going to continue to use this 3D printer in the future. So I can safely say that I highly recommend this to anyone that wants to get into the hobby. If you guys are interested in picking up this printer for yourself, I put a link in the description below. I want to say thank you to Flashforge for sending me out this printer, and thank you guys so much for watching this video. I'll see you in the next one.